As experts ring alarm bells that children could be at the highest risk in the possibility of a third COVID wave hitting us, a group of school students have come together to kick off a very important initiative. This is a tweetathon urging the government to vaccinate children. We'll be joined by these young minds who actually began this campaign. But before that, here's the story.
In the midst of a deadly second wave across the country and a looming threat of a third wave that experts warn could hit the children most, chorus is growing across the country for vaccinating those below 18 years of age. For this, a bunch of young minds have started a social media campaign. What started as a small initiative has now gone viral, with parents and professionals from across the country joining it to make it a top trend.
I was sitting at home watching the news with my mother, and I saw these vaccination drives for people above the age of 18. And I wondered why the government isn't starting a parallel vaccination drive for children between 12 to 17 ages as well. My mom told me it wasn't determined when we could actually get vaccinated. It could be in a year, it could be in a half a year. So I decided to actually make an effort. I reached out to interested friends, and through our aunts and uncles and our parents, we basically spread the word. And the amount of feedback and support we received was much more than what we had actually expected.
The campaign has gathered steam, with more than 20 WhatsApp groups being run by students. A tweetathon with hashtags like Save Kids from Third Wave, hashtag Vaccine for Indian Kids, and hashtag Pfizer for Indian Kids has been trending on Twitter.
We as kids need to get vaccinated now. I see the government making having all these vaccination drives for adults above the age of 18. So this movement was basically created to request the government to start a vaccination drive for kids as well. Now with this possibility of a third COVID wave coming, as well as this current strain of COVID affecting children more adversely than what did in the previous waves, why should we wait for a time where a COVID strain affects children even more than what it does now? Why shouldn't we push for action as soon as possible?
The tweetathon is to urge the government to explore options of vaccinating the kids with Pfizer jabs that have already been declared safe for children below 18 in the United States.
We chose Pfizer to streamline the movement because specificity is better than generalization. Our main aim is just to make sure that 12 to 17-year-olds are included in the list of those being vaccinated, and we don't wait for the third wave to affect us.
With more than 41% of country's population below the age of 18, these children have hit a raw nerve. They are urging the government to save young lives before it's too late. With Mosme Singh in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's just give you a status report on really what's happening, what's the progress that's been made as far as a vaccine for kids is concerned. The big development that happened is that Bharat Biotech has been given the go-ahead for phase 2 and phase 3 trials on kids. They've also chosen a 525 volunteer group for these trials. Beyond that also, this clinical trial will happen for the age group of 2 to 18. The Pfizer BioNTech vaccine has already been approved in the United States for emergency use for children aged between 12 to 18 years. And this is something that several experts have highlighted to say India must do so as well. Biden, in fact, has asked for vaccination of teens immediately. It's also kicked off in the United States. And all of this very important because there's a lot of talk that the next wave could hit children. Moderna also, meanwhile, is conducting a 6-month to 12 years Kid Cove under study. So this particular study is also expected to have some big outcome as far as vaccine for teenagers and for young children are concerned. So while Pfizer vaccine has been approved in the United States, here in India, phase 2 and phase 3 trials are underway for the Bharat Biotech's Covaxin vaccine. Let me take this across to our guests who are joining us. I have with me Ayan Kapoor, who's the one who came up with this initiative, started the social media campaign. Also, Sonia Kapoor is with us, the mother of Ayan. Thank you so much for joining us here in India today. Ayan, I want to start with you. Congratulations on the success of your campaign. You know, when did you decide to do this? What was that point when you said that, look, we need to come together and put out this message that we must get vaccinated?
Hi, first of all, thank you for having us on your show today. So this was about 4 or 5 days ago. I was sitting at home with my mom watching the news, and I saw these vaccination drives for adults as well. So I had this question come to mind, when would we get vaccinated? And so my mom said, it could be any time. It could be a year, it could be half a year. So that's how I decided to start this parallel drive, a parallel vaccination movement to request the government to actually get vaccines for kids between ages 12 to 17-year-olds.
Were you expecting this kind of a response, Ayan, that, you know, your appeal to the government would go viral? So many, children, so many teenagers, all of them have related to what you've started. Parents have also spoken out. Were you expecting this kind of a response on social media?
I definitely didn't expect that big of a response. I expected maybe like a few hundreds of people to come, but we actually had more than 5,000-6,000 people that actually ended up taking part in the tweetathon. So, and that too from all over the country, from Pune, Bombay, Bangalore, Ludhiana, doctors from Agra, children from various schools, DPS, modern school Barakhamba, and especially my Sri Ram school community, especially my teachers, which also helped me a lot. So I definitely didn't expect that big of a response.
You know, your appeal has resonated with so many people, and I want to bring in your mother as well, Sonia. Sonia, you know, what Ayan has started has resonated with so many people, with parents, with other teenagers, with, I'm sure, all of his friends, and with so many of your friends as well. Are you worried also, you know, when experts come out to say that the third wave is going to hit children, is going to hit those below the age of 18 hard? I'm sure as a parent, you're very, very concerned.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we've just seen that what has happened in the second wave, it's beyond unimaginable mayhem that has been created. All of us have been on our phones, helping people out, helping relatives, friends, you know, getting beds, oxygen. I mean, it scares the shit out of me that what's going to happen if the third wave comes and our children are not protected. So coming from that worry only, this question has come, and it's a very valid thing that the government is talking about 18 plus, great. But what about the kids below? You know, you guys have been covering stories where it's affected kids. I just yesterday saw a child of 6 months who was affected by COVID and died within a week. So it is absolutely worrisome, and we want the government to do something about it. You know, we want them to start thinking about it. We don't want to be waiting for the third wave to hit us.
No, and I can completely understand your concern. You know, you see the kind of distressing images that are coming in across the country, and then you wonder what will a third wave really look like, especially with experts saying that, you know, children, teenagers are going to be impacted. Do you think, Sonia, however, that the government is doing enough? You know, you've got Bharat Biotech's trials now starting. Perhaps it will take a couple of months, but there is movement on that front. And while I can understand your concern, are we trying to rush this?
You know, not really, because see, government has announced yesterday, right? We were expecting this to happen a little earlier. I'm saying, why did we even wait for this wave as well? You know, so now when we say that okay, trials have begun, they are going to start doing trials, but by the time it hits the market, it's going to be another 6 to 8 months, and they are predicting third wave in November, December. So my suggestion is, yes, they are doing. I'm not saying the government is not doing much, but it has to be speeded up. And we have a proof of concept which exists outside. There is a vaccine which is available, which has been approved by, you know, Canada, USA, today UAE, Pfizer vaccine. Maybe they should get that here. If the trials need to happen, because if that's the rule of the country, then let's do that. But parallelly, let's start planning, you know, and start I think it needs a little bit more effort and momentum. I don't think it is happening, but it is slow.
Okay,
I think we
you want it to
really
be
need to
fast-tracked.
Yeah.
Ayan, when you speak to your friends, I'm sure all of you are very, very concerned by the news that trickles in about the vaccine. You've spoken about that as well. There's been a lot of talk, and another aspect of this is about schools reopening. Do you think, and do you, in your interactions with your friends, have all of you felt that the need of the hour is to vaccinate and then only open schools?
100%. So none of us believe that school should actually start opening without us getting actually vaccinated. With people, with children below the age of 18 actually constituting more than 40% of India's population, I definitely feel that we should actually first get vaccinated. I felt that our boards getting cancelled was definitely a great decision. And I feel that 12 boards should get cancelled too, at least just before, at least after, till after we get vaccinated, it should get cancelled.
Would you agree with that, Sonia, that, one of the concerns that many parents are speaking about is schools, and the fact that, having any opening up everything, particularly schools, could lead to these places becoming super spreaders? We've spoken about vaccinating teachers. We have not spoken about the students.
Absolutely. I mean, they are the crucial part of this total ecosystem of schools. I mean, we are focusing on teachers, we are focusing on the staff, but what about the kids? Even if one kid goes which has COVID, just imagine the mayhem that it will create. And we don't want to go through this. It's mind-boggling to even think that, if one kid comes and says, I have COVID, what are the rest going to do? Are we going to run for the test? Are we going to, run to the doctors? What is going to be that ecosystem to support us? So I don't think, it's a tragedy. It's unfortunate that kids are losing their school years. But what to do? The situation is unprecedented. They have to get vaccinated before the school start. We can't afford to let them get exposed like this. We can't.
There are so many stories that are coming in, Sonia, and you also highlighted how it's being shown by us here in India today about children getting impacted right now by COVID. And really, it goes beyond whether it's about their schooling and how their life itself has changed in the last 1 year or so. Keeping these circumstances in mind, and with really the vaccination process kicking off, there's another concern, and this is perhaps what the administration is also talking about whether we're equipped really to vaccinate teenagers right now, about whether we have the resources, whether we have the equipment. Do you think that perhaps is also leading to a delay?
Yeah, fair enough. But we are such a huge country. We have so much of population. We have the resources. We have the money. If it's put properly, used with the systematic planning, this can be achieved. We can send rockets and stuff to the moon. Then why can't we do this? Yes, we are struggling at the moment because there has been no planning. Yes, we've been hit, and such a thing has not been seen, before. But I think if you plan, you put your resources together, we can do this. And I suggest, and I would in fact urge the government, please involve the private players, please involve the ordinary citizens. We are all equipped, we can help, we can come together. And it has proved in the second wave, there has been mayhem, but the communities have come together to help each other out, and people are getting helped and saved. I mean, yes, there has been tragedies, but at the same time, it's, the human race is so resourceful that they rise up. So I think the government needs to plan. The government needs to involve the private players. The government needs to involve ordinary citizens, and let's go for it. We need a map, and we need to follow that.
Ayan, in your campaign on social media, you were telling me about how you got responses from across the country. What do they really have to say about what's being done so far? Are they happy with the efforts that have been taken with regards to vaccination and the efforts to find a vaccine for all of you?
So by the time when the tweetathon was actually happening, this news of the Bharat Biotech actually getting the nod to do the vaccine trials hadn't actually come then. So the tweetathon was actually before that. So a lot of people were actually unhappy that the government had not yet made those many efforts to arrange vaccines for children as well. So I think that's why it resonated with so many people, because many parents feel that their kids need to reclaim their lives. And I think they also thought it's high time. So I think that's why we got such a big response, because many of the parents, teachers, kids as well resonated with this idea of the tweetathon and the goal behind it.
But has there been any communication soon after, from any authority really, Ayan, to you or to any of the others who organized this massive campaign? Has there been any effort to reach out to all of you and address your concerns?
No, not yet. We're definitely hoping that something like this would happen, but unfortunately, it hasn't yet.
Is that something that's lacking also, Sonia, a lack of communication? Because, there is a lot of concern, there's a lot of worry among parents about vaccinating of children, about teens also being allowed to get the vaccine. Has there been a lack of communication from the administration to assuage some of your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I forget about the communication. I don't even think that they're thinking about it in these lines. 18 plus is, of course, getting considered. We all have got one shot done. But I don't think they're thinking ahead. I think they're just stuck here, and then they're just like kind of waiting for something to happen. So yes, I mean, and honestly, after the parents, after the tutorathon, there was a tremendous response. A lot of media has connected with us, and there is a support coming from a lot of website forums run by parents and stuff like that, but nothing from the administration. Yeah.
And that is, I'm sure, very, very disappointing also, because when you see this kind of a campaign garner so much traction on social media, it's clearly a concern for the citizens of this country. Yes, it's good news that, we are seeing some developments on this front of phase 2 and phase 3 trials, but with countries going ahead and giving the nod for a vaccine already, and Sonia, you already pointed this out, that you believe one of the solutions that the government must immediately look into is perhaps at least bringing in the Pfizer vaccine, which hasn't been approved here in India, at least for, a certain age group, to ensure that some children at least are vaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely. See, the point here is that, there is a proof of concept. It exists. Let's get this for our kids. It's not important, is it Indian or not Indian? There is a nationalist sentiment, I understand, but at the end of the day, we need to save our population. We need to save our kids, and if there is something available, it's high time we sourced it and we start. I don't understand, what are we waiting for?
No, but there is also an apprehension that's come in about whether these vaccines are safe, for children. It needs to be properly tried and tested. So which is why I come back to that question. Are we jumping the gun then in saying that, we must go ahead and give the green signal for vaccinating teenagers and children?
See, I understand the concern. I also understand that we have to take it step by step. So, let's take the first step. I mean, see, the efficacy trials have been published and other countries have approved. So obviously there's a data out there, right? But if you think that it needs to be tested on the Indian population, on the Indian kids, then let's do that. Let's speed up the process, right? We, Covaxing has started. I mean, these guys have started. The Bharat Biotech have started the trials. Yesterday it got announced. If that's needed from a company like Pfizer, let's tell them to start the trials. I mean, if that is what is required, I don't know. But if it is, let's do it. But let's take the first step.
Before I wrap this up, Ayan, I just want you to put out your appeal to the government here on India Today with regards to vaccinating you and about your friends and, every teenager out there, about your message to the government, your appeal to them on vaccinating youngsters.
So my appeal to the government is, please do start a parallel vaccination drive for kids between ages of 12 and 17 as soon, or even below the age of 18 as soon as possible. We as kids, being a major part of the population, need to reclaim our lives. And with this possibility of a third COVID wave coming, and it actually affecting children much more adversely, this current COVID strain actually affecting children much more adversely than the previous COVID strains, we request you to start this process as soon as possible. And even if the process is slow in our country itself, please do get vaccines from foreign countries. A very good example of a vaccine would be Pfizer. And please do start trials in India as soon as possible.
Okay, let's hope the authorities are listening. There's no doubt that your campaign, the tweetathon that you did also, Ayan, struck a chord with so many people across the country, and that's why it's got such a tremendous response. Ayan and Sonia, thank you very much for joining us here on India Today. This is a huge issue that's been raised time and again about the vaccination of children and whether the government now needs to focus on that and fast track it because of the fact that experts are warning time and again that the third wave could impact children very, very badly in the country. It's a wrap on this edition of The Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. That's it from me. And as always, for all the top headlines, you can log on to our website, indiatoday.in. You can also download the India Today app.
Keep watching India Today.